Good, good morning, folks. Baz here. And this is going to be one of those, it's going to be a personal and difficult topic, but I'm hoping through it, um, just some self reflection and some healing. And I'd like to highlight a couple of points. There's lessons to be taken away from this. Um, so, I've been watching a lot of Bows versus the World, and not really so much as watching it as she's kind of been background noise. Now, before people jump the gun and assume that my name being Baz is somehow derivative of her name, the name Baz comes from this place called Bazookas. When I was three, I don't know if it was what the occasion was, but we were going to the movie theaters, and next to the theaters in Jersey, in Secaucus, New Jersey, was this place called Bazookas, and it's sort of like a Hooters, whereas except instead of Hooters tops, they had like referee shirts. And as a 3 year old, that the I guess the atmosphere stuck with me, the name stuck with me. It always then became a sort of a joke going forward. Whenever we came across like bazooka gum, we would automatically go back to that place, the bazooka place. Um, and then in a video game, there was this character I made. I think I might have addressed this in a previous video, but where the name Baz comes from. But in a video game, like back in 2007, I want to say 2007, maybe 2010, um, this one character class was made in the game, and the female version has some big old jugs on her. And I made a female version of the character, and I named her Bazookas, and the name stuck from then on. Everyone in my guild, my friends and whatnot, they just called me Baz, and I kind of just ran with Baz from that point going forward. So, but Bows versus the World now, she's a YouTuber. She's much more famous than I am. I'm not famous at all, but she's very good at breaking down the nuances of people's psychology, emotions. She could read a situation very well, and if you're paying attention to what she's saying, she'll have you doing some of your own self-reflecting and whatnot, and some deep thought. And maybe why I'm more comfortable saying this here is because I'm not well known. People don't really watch my videos. I'm looking at the past couple of videos I've put out, and I've got like 0 views. So chances are no one's going to come across this, but hopefully this helps me get something off my chest that needs to get off. Um, I told myself actually that I would take this to the grave, and as I got older and got older and got older, some part of me kept saying to myself, "I'm gonna take this to the grave. I'm gonna take it to the grave." But the more I think, as now at this age, I'm thinking maybe it's not a good idea. Maybe certain people should know this story. Maybe this bit of truth should come out. Um, this is gonna be one of them cigarette stories, so y'all gonna pardon me and my little addiction here, because this is a big one. So first and foremost, I like to say, if you're a father, if you have kids, stay by your kids. If you and the mother ain't getting along, I get it. If you gotta break up, but stay in your kid's life. Stay in your kid's life, and I don't mean just call them here and there. Be around, get to know your kid, be in that child's life, because that void is gonna be filled by someone else, and you don't know who and what that someone else is capable of doing to your child. Um, I will say, for the most part, my childhood wasn't a bad childhood. Um, Even if I didn't grow up with two parents in the household, and things get rocky here and there, for the most part, I didn't have a bad childhood. I grew up in the area if comparing, like I would tell this to anyone. Like, I kind of feel like I'm not trying to rub it in, but I feel like I was the most privileged child. I wasn't rich. I didn't grow up in a mansion or any of that, and I grew up in an apartment, in a railroad apartment, if anything. But the situation I was in, I kind of feel like was more fortunate and was more privileged than even kids who grew up in wealth, who grew up in mansions. Um, for culture purposes, for the friends you make, the family you have, and whatnot. For instance, the apartment I grew up in, there's It's a building. There's like three buildings that are identical to each other, and they're sat right next to each other. And what would be our alleyway didn't connect from the front of the building to the back of the building. They kind of connected the two buildings together, um, in certain areas of the the building. So if you were to go down what would be an alleyway, you would eventually stop and you'd be looking at windows that are one from one side of the building and one from the other, from the next building next door. So we were on the second floor, and my best friend ended up moving in when I was 10. And from that point on, it was kind of cool because I could literally just knock on his window from my window, and we could just have a conversation like that. Or if days when he was locked out of his house and needed to get into his house, he could crawl through his window from my window and get into his house. Um, our kitchen windows face each other, so if like my mother was cooking something, I could like wave him over and he'd come over, or vice versa. It happened quite often. If it was ribs, if it was lobster tail, whatever, we would just invite each other back and forth. And it became so common that we ended up making our own little hand signs and whatnot. Not gang signs, not like sign language, but our own sort of sign language. And this actually evolved over years and years and years until we went to high school and we were able to send each other messages through just hands. um, Around the corner from where I grew up, there was a Mrs. Softy garage, and so there was times when me and my buddy, my best friend, we'd be out to like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and we were literally just outside in the street, just tossing a football back and forth. But by the time the Mrs. Softy truck had ended his rounds, ended his go around the city, he would be pulling up, and sometimes we get some free ice cream out of it. I mean, it was, when I say we had a pretty fun childhood. Around another corner was another Mrs. Softy garage. That gentleman wasn't as giving, but right next door to him was this garage that had held the gentleman. I guess he worked on and repaired arcade games, arcade systems, like arcade units that you would see in like movie theaters and shit. And they were all broken there for the most part. There's some that were working, and then there was like a pool table, and it was missing like four balls, but it was enough that like sometimes he would just keep his garage door open, and he would let kids come in and just play some of the games. And he wasn't. There's nothing wrong with him. He wasn't weird or nothing. He never did something to us kids. But I'm just reflecting on my childhood. This is why I say didn't have a bad childhood. I didn't grow up rich, but riches isn't always in money. Riches is in culture. It's in your community. And my community had Mr. Softy truck around. I didn't mind giving us free ice cream at the end of his shift. We had a guy fixing arcades and didn't mind letting the kids come out and play. Right across the street from where I lived was a park, and that park is huge. Like the community was pretty dope. And my mother, she loved us. She loved her kids. She loved being around her kids. um, it's a stark contrast from who my pops is, because my pops will go on and talk about his kids to other people, but he's never around us to really know who we are, so it's kind of weird. Whereas my mother couldn't wait to be around us. She loved coming home to be with her kids. When we got off from school, she would take off from work for those weeks, and she would have things planned out for us: trips to Central Park, trips to the Bronx Zoo, trips to the New York Aquarium, Coney Island. You know what I mean? Uh, every year we went to these places, Six Flags, one of the zoos, whatever. Every single year. Sometimes we brought friends with us. Sometimes we brought a family with the other cousins and whatnot with us. We had fun. My mother made sure we had fun, if anyone did. My mother also made sure we had an education. She made sure we had culture. I'm half black, but it wasn't my father who taught me any black history. It was my mother. This is this little Italian white lady who will be the one bringing me to West Indian festivals and Martin Luther King Day events, and making sure that I knew my history. So I give her that. She wasn't a bad woman, and she wasn't neglectful. She's still alive, so I shouldn't say was, because she's still, thankfully, still alive. But for when we were kids, she wasn't mean to us or wicked to us. She wasn't abusive. She wasn't angry. She didn't show any reason. She loved her kids. My mother truly loved her kids. So she made sure we had a good childhood. So I could look back and say, for the most part, that my childhood was a good childhood. But there were parts of it that maybe got a bit darker and unexpectedly. Um, I will say, this is sort of like a preface to where I'm going with it. kids when are very, very curious. We're very curious. Well, when we are kids, when humans are kids, we're very curious. The world is very big. It's an adventure. It's a huge adventure, and everything is new to you. Um, some things are wrong and right because your parents tell you so. But nevertheless, sometimes things are curious to you. When I was 4, we went to this friend's house. I'm not gonna say the friend's name. I'm not gonna give away anyone's information. But at this friend's house, um, I don't remember too much of the event. All I remember was the specific situation where it happened. I could tell you, I know the street, the address, all that, and then who had done it. In this situation, I was 4 years old, and I had gotten up away from the living room. I'm pretty sure there was like a haunted or like a horror movie on, and I wasn't with it. I went to the bathroom, and I took my time in the bathroom. I was eventually this girl comes in. It's the daughter of my folks' friends. The daughter comes in. I don't remember how old she was, to be honest. I just remember how old I was, and she closes the door and locks it behind her, and I'm still in the toilet taking a shit, whatever, and she went after me in a way. As a 4-year-old, again, curious mind, you're going along with it. Part of you knows that you're probably doing something that's wrong because your parents taught you these are your private parts or whatever. But there's also that curious mind that just went with it. And then when all was said and done, she went out the bathroom and started immediately crying to her family that I had done something to her. I didn't even know what the fuck was going on. I didn't know what was going on. I don't remember getting in trouble for it. It's probably because I was so young and I didn't know. But this is where impression on children is created. Is so that happened, and I'm left with this impression that although it's strange, it's probably normal for someone to approach you and do things, right? Fast forward, and this is why I say, fathers, be around your kids. Be around your kids. Visit them. My pops didn't visit me. My pops will say up and down that he's been there, and financially, was he there? My mother needed him to be. My mother never hit him up for child support. In fact, there's a whole case about it in which she told the judge, I don't want his money. I want him to spend time with his kid. And I point this out because being in your child's life and being around them, not only you get to know them and see them grow, but you deter predators. You let other people know that there's a man in this child's life that cares about this child and is going to protect this child. You also let the child know that there's many parameters that are built just by being a father to your child. And the only time I ever seen my pops was when he was driving me to Brooklyn to be with my family over there. He never spent time with me. This isn't so much to rag on him and make him look bad. This is just to highlight what can happen to your child when you're not around to be the man in their life, to be the adult. So I think I already checked off I was a curious child. But I wasn't a stupid child. I was foolish, I was naive, but I wasn't a dumb child. I was not trying to toot my own horn, but I was very, very smart for my age. I knew a lot more than I probably should. I could read just wonderfully. I'm 3 years old, 4 years old. I was reading phenomenally. I was doing just fine. I knew how to tie my shoes by the time I was 3. I was the only kid in kindergarten and in first grade and then had ties on shoes. Everyone else had them fucking Velcro things. I was the only one that was able to tie my own laces. And I will say I give that credit to my uncle. He literally took my hands by the hands and made my fingers do the work to tie the knot. And from that point on, I learned. But I was 3 when he taught me that shit, and I never forgot it. And I never forgot that he taught me it. This is an innocent uncle, by the way. He's no longer with us. He's passed away a long time ago. He never did anything wrong by me, my family, nobody. However, in my curious mind, I came across something. I came across something at someone's house. So my aunt, my mother's sister, had married this man, and I didn't know much about him. I barely remember the wedding. I do remember the reception. I remember war was held. I remember the drink that I had that was there. It was like a ginger ale or whatever. Um, and I remember just like the very next day, the two were living together. Okay, whatever. Now, nothing happened at that point. Only things only started when they moved next door to where we were living. Because I grew up in the same apartment building for the first 16 years of my life. I was always in that same apartment building. Before my best friend moved, when I was 10, my aunt, my mother's sister, had moved into that very same apartment that my best friend moved into. But that was when I was 8, and they moved in there with her husband's brother-in-law and her husband's brother and that brother's wife and kid. It came a time when the brother and his family ended up packing up and moving. I think they went to another apartment. Yeah, that's what happened. They went to another apartment. They moved to the apartment that my aunt was originally staying in. Really weird situation going on in that little section of Jersey City, but whatever. Just roll with it. So that left my aunt, her husband, and now she's got her kid, her son, her youngest son. Um, and this is where it began because my aunt used to watch me, babysit me and my sister when my mother was gone to work or whatever, and she had cable. Now, me as a child growing up, I didn't have no cable. We had Air TV. You had channel 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. 2 is CBS, 4 is NBC, 5 is Fox, 7 is ABC, 9 was UPN. UPN was kind of the shit. 11 was WB, 13 is PBS, learning channel. Those were the channels we had. And then 3 was if you want to play your video games, coaxial. So my aunt, she had cable, and kind of took advantage of it. I didn't watch MTV as a child. I didn't watch any of the music videos. I watched Nickelodeon and I watched Cartoon Network. But one particular day, I came across, I want to say, maybe it was the Playboy channel. It might have been, because it was an adult channel. I think Playboy was the only one that had a channel like that at the time. Either way, I came across an adult channel. And I knew at the time, was I 8? I think it was 8. I knew at the time that I was probably looking at something I shouldn't be looking at, that if I got caught, I was going to get in trouble for it. But no one at that moment was watching. So when kids are curious and doing things, they're going to do things, right? So I'm watching, and then my aunt's husband comes in the room. And instead of yelling at me, instead of being mad at me, he kind of entertained my curious child mind. And this is where probably I think for a long time, I said I kept this to myself. Part of it, a great deal of it is shame. A great deal of it is, and people don't understand why someone feels ashamed of things like this, especially when you're a guy. There's a lot of stigmatism that comes with being put in a situation. A lot of fingers that might be pointed at you. A lot of thoughts that get put into people's heads. But somehow I felt like, and as an adult, I know I shouldn't, as a kid, and if I was to look at myself as a kid in that situation as an adult now, say you're maybe wrong for not telling your parents about it, but he was still an adult, he should have known better, right? But there's still that part of you that still feels responsible, like because I didn't tell nobody, because I was curious in this thing on TV. That makes me the wrong one. That makes me the one who initiated it in some way, because I didn't initiate it, but I guess it gave him some feeling of green light to do something, and he did. And this went on for about a year. Um, Eventually, my aunt, and she was struggling to get her kids. Um, the city had taken her kids from her because I guess she was unfit to take care of them. And she was working hard to get her kids back. And her oldest son had been gone from her. Last time I had seen him was like he had birthday parties up in like Wayne, New Jersey, where he was living with his pops, and we'd go out to visit him. And it was like once a year type thing, but we didn't really see him like that. So, and I, as a kid who grew up here with my family, the majority of my family, my father's side of the family, they live in Brooklyn, and it's not far away from where I grew up, but it's far enough that I'm not seeing them every day. They're not, within the neighborhood. They're not within the city, so I'm not bumping into them like that. But my friends have, cousins, family members that live in the same city, so it would be cool. And they bump into them all the time. And part of me kind of felt the same way. Now, one of my cousins back. Well, and I do apologize to you because I kind of feel like by me keeping my silence and not saying anything as a child, he ended up getting dragged into it. I didn't drag him into it, but I do owe him an apology. I'm not gonna say your name, but you know who you are, and I do apologize for letting it happen to eventually come your way as well. And I apologize that when cause he was the bold one. He was the one that spoke up about it, and he named me as well, saying it happened to me too, and I said it didn't. I lied, and I was wrong for that. I should have had your back, and if you're upset with me for not having your back, you're right to be upset. I truly am sorry for it, and no sorry could take back, what happened. But I will say, actions speak louder than words, and what I hope my life proves is that those people who there's always that belief that people who were molested as kids, who were sexually assaulted as kids, they end up growing up to be the same thing, and I've never become that. So if my sorry is not enough, know that I ended that cycle. You understand? You could go to any of my cousins, any of my friends, family, whatever. I've never been that. I never did it forward in a sense. You know what I mean? I've never been that person. I've never ever been that person. I knew it was wrong from when it first happened, and when it ended, it ended. I didn't do anything going forward. Um, does that atone for not having had my cousin's back when he said that it happened to him? Probably not, but I do apologize, um, deeply and truly. So what happened was, I think it was maybe 11 or 12 when my cousin finally spoke up about it, and if I'm not mistaken, it resulted in my at this point in time my aunt had gotten all her kids back, and I believe this resulted in her losing them all over again, and the man also ended up going to jail. Now he would write me from prison, and I think I responded to maybe two or three of them, and then I stopped. I didn't respond anymore. I really don't remember the reason why I stopped. I just stopped. Um, but I guess part of me felt like, well, he's in jail now, so I don't have to say anything because he's already suffering the consequences. And even as a man growing up, I don't know why I felt the same way. Like, what would be the point of saying anything now? He's already been to jail. Um, and that was partly why I didn't, if anything, why I didn't say anything to begin with. Not to begin with. Not that it's rife that I kept my mouth shut, but as a child, I didn't want to see the man go to jail. You know, when when I first met him, he wasn't a mean person. He wasn't mean to any of us, and none of that ever happened. When I first met him, he was dating or with my aunt, and they would take us bowling. There was a bowling alley. Actually, it's not here no more, but they would take us bowling, and it was like every Tuesday or Thursday we were going bowling, and nothing inappropriate happened at the bowling alleys, but when you grew up in a family, so for the first 6 years of my life, I had a mother, father, and a sister all up in one house. Come 6 years old, my father's not there no more. He's just gone. He just left us. And so now we're down a person. Well, maybe as a child, maybe trying to rationalize it, but as a child, where you're now down to just having your mother in the house and you're not doing anything as family anymore. And then at least with your aunt, when you go with your aunt, it's your aunt, her man, and then you and your sister, and y'all going places. It almost feels like, I mean, my aunt's family, right? But it also feels like being part of a family. And again, he, for the most part, he hadn't been mean to us, so he played some games, he showed some magic tricks. He was friendly, and that's usually a way that people, I guess, try to butter up kids or whatever. But it's how, I guess, he won over my good side. And so even though I knew he did something wrong to me, and once I was no longer going along with it, I don't know, I guess I still didn't want him to get in trouble. Do I want him to get in trouble for it now? I don't care. There's, I'm not getting anything out of, if he goes to prison now, there's nothing, it's not going to do anything for me. You know what I mean? If he went to jail for what happened with me, it's not going to undo anything. Um, it, but I do want to, I do lay these things out to, I guess, to point out for people. For one, again, just because you've been a victim doesn't mean you get to victimize other people. I've been a victim, even if at the time I didn't consider myself a victim. And that, I think, means even more, because I wasn't considering myself a victim. I never did. Because I always blame myself for it, so I never see myself as a victim. Even though I never see myself as a victim, I never did that to other people going forward. I never did to anyone's child. I never did it to no cousin, no friend, no, nothing. Nothing. You can go through my whole history, FBI, all that. Go through my entire life story. You're never going to come across a child or anybody that I did that shit to. So people who say that whole, I know that psychologists and all that, they give people, they profile people like that. It's not a reason. You knew what you was doing. Don't blame it on your demons. If you a grown man, you know you shouldn't be doing something to kids. You should, then don't be doing it. What happened to you in your childhood doesn't mean anything. What you're doing is what you're doing. That's first and foremost. Secondly, fathers, again, be in your child's life. My father is a 6'3" black man. He looks like the big brown version of me. People don't be believing it when I say I'm half black until they see my father and they see my family, and they're like, oh shit, this kid's not just black. He's like all foreigner black. But had my father been around just a little bit more, just 5% more, chances are that man would have been too terrified to do anything to me, because he'd have been afraid of my pops. The man looks scary. Maybe not so much now. Maybe to some people he don't. But at that time, I kind of always felt like, I kind of feel like, had my pops been around, the man wouldn't have done any of that. Nor would I have had the mind to I would like to think that I wouldn't. Not having a father around leaves a void in your child's life. Boys, no matter what the gender. For girls, it ends up being, they end up seeking male attention, and any boy that they come across going forward that tells them they're beautiful, they just cling to them. And for us boys, you take away a security, you take away a role model. Your father is your role model, for better or worse. No matter how much of a shithead your pops might be, he's a role model. He's your hero, and your hero's not there to save the day, and so someone else steps in and becomes that hero and becomes that role model. That's pretty much what you're doing. You're just leaving that door wide open for anyone else to come and show your son how to be a person. Be in your child's life. Be in your kid's life. We can't undo the past. My pops can't undo the past, and part of me hopes that he never comes across this video, because I think it's gonna destroy him. Maybe he don't believe it. It doesn't matter if he doesn't believe it. It is what happened. Another thing is, I think through this, one thing that this has taught me is, this might offend some people, and I don't mean for it to, but it makes me think that people aren't really born gay. I don't believe that it's not a choice. I do think it's a choice. I think people choose what they want to do. Um, I had experience, and I didn't like the experience, so I don't do it no more. You understand? It's just that simple. Does having that experience make a person gay or bi? I don't know. I don't know how those standards work, but I will say, because it's not something I'm interested or care for, that disqualifies me from being that. But I do think some people do make the active choice of. So we're creatures of habit. You know, you do something to someone enough, they get used to it, even if they don't like it. I always had a fear of, for instance, my sister or myself ending up in prison. Mostly my sister, because I don't be doing shit to get up in prison. But my sister, sometimes she wilds out. Sometimes she puts herself in situations where she get in trouble. And I always feared her ending up in prison because she's the type of person that she truly can adapt to whatever environment she's in, and I don't want that to be her regular. I never want you, for better or worse, whatever happens between me and my sister and our disagreements through our life. I never want her to be in prison. I never want her to be that person that goes in and out of prison. And just as you can adapt to prison, I think you could adapt to sexuality. I think for some people, they've done something enough, and it just becomes normal. I don't know if it's necessarily sexuality. I think it's just humanity. I think it's human to be curious and then tell yourself, maybe not. You understand? Um, this is a heavy one. I probably meant to say more that I haven't. Um, cause I've been thinking about this for a while. How I'm gonna deliver it. How I'm gonna put it out there if I want to. You know. Um, I do know that I don't want to die with this on my conscience. I don't want to go to the grave with this anymore. Um, I don't know if it's not something that's weighing me down from getting ahead in life. It's not something that's holding me back. Like I'm not sitting back steaming on it. Like it's not like that. I'm not ruminating on it, but it is something that I kind of feel like I need something I need to forgive myself about, because part of it is shame. That's a great part of it. You know, that's why we don't tell anyone. Is a great big shame in it, and I think that shame it's a fucked up mix of emotions, because instead of being mad at the person who did it to me, you're more so mad at yourself for letting yourself be put in that situation. And maybe I'm giving myself too much credit for being a smart child, but obviously I wasn't smart enough, you know. But I'm hoping that this is, by getting it off my chest, I could then truly move forward from it. Um, I'm not gonna name the person. I probably should, but I'm not gonna name the person. If you know a prosecutor or a lawyer approaches me and has something to say about it, then I might start dropping names. But I'm not trying to put the person on blast on the internet. No one involved, because if it's one name, that one name's gonna trickle to other names. I'm not trying to put people's information out there like that. But I'm am hoping that this is something, now that I said it and I've heard it out loud, I heard myself speak about it, I guess. Um, Maybe something I could really put past me. Um, it's a time in my life that happened, and it didn't um, it didn't tarnish my childhood. There were moments that happened, but it didn't break up what was ultimately a good childhood. They were things that happened. They were experiences that were had, and then it was there for a time, and then it wasn't. That's what it was. Um, so I can't say that. And was I a victim in those situations? Yeah, but my life didn't carry on as a person that was victimized. You know what I mean? I still had held and have decent friendships. I don't have a problem with communicating with other people or expressing myself for that matter. This was just one of those things that it just it's been sitting on my chest since 8 years old, and I'm a long way from that. You know, if something was to happen to me tomorrow, I don't think I want to. I don't think I want that on my spirit, on my soul. I think I want to let it out. I think I want to expel it, get rid of it. So that's what it was. I'm not gonna give details. on all the things unless a judge forces me to. I'm not trying to go into it because it's really not. It's not appropriate. Something I want to relive. Um, Something I want to think about. Part of it mostly there's true and utter embarrassment. You know, it's truly humiliating. Well, more embarrassing than humiliating, right? Because humiliating is what another person does to you, whereas embarrassment is what you do to yourself, and it is embarrassing to think of. Um, I do remember certain instances, certain situations. So if I was to be questioned on certain things, I can give certain details and whatnot, but I don't think it's appropriate for one of these videos. Um, that being said, if my mother comes across this video, I'm sorry for lying to you. My mother had, I guess, when the news came out about my cousin, he has said that it happened to me too, my cousin, and he was telling the truth. He was telling the truth. But he told my mother, or the news came to my mother, and my mother says that she woke me up out of a deep sleep, and that's how she knew that when I said no, he didn't do nothing, that I was telling the truth, that I didn't have any time to make up a lie. But the fact of the matter is that somewhere along the way of that relationship, I was already ready to lie about it. I was already ready to say it didn't happen, you know. And so, waking me up out of a deep sleep to ask me something that I was already ready to lie about it. Not that I knew that situation was popping off the way it did, because I had no idea, but just the lie in itself, I was ready to keep it. Like I said, I was ready to take it to the grave. Now I'm not. So I do apologize, Mom. I really do. You deserve to know the truth. Um, and maybe it's for the better that I didn't tell the truth back then, because my father probably would have killed the guy. Even though me and my pops have a really crappy relationship, like me and him have like no relationship. Um, but he does care about him to some degree. It's weird. It's a weird degree, and it's a weird type of love. But I do know he probably would have killed the guy. The man would never probably would have made it to prison. He would have. So it's probably for the better, because then there would have been two people that got sent to prison or got in trouble, whatever, versus just one. But I am sorry. I truly am sorry for not telling you. Um, don't feel bad about it. There's nothing that you did that was wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. You made no mistakes. I was a curious kid, and that curiosity was taken advantage of by an adult, and that was my cross to bear. I bared it in silence, and now I'm laying it out. Um, to my pops, I don't even know what to tell you about it. I think I don't know. I think what I tell you about it is the same message to every other father that's out there. And for you, it's just too late, because I'm no longer a child. That opportunity passed, right? So the message is for other fathers, not for you. Be in your kid's life. Saying you're there because you're just like 2, 3 blocks away, but you never see your child, is not being in your child's life. My best friend, his pops, I'm not going to badmouth his pops, but his pops and his mother weren't together. And for better or worse, whatever people want to say about that man was with his son, if not every day, every other day. He would park right across the street and just do homework with his son, and he just be in his van. He just wanted to be around his kid. He wasn't inappropriate. He wasn't doing anything weird. He was just being around his kid. At least it didn't look like that from where I was looking at things, right? And I remember my best friend complaining about it, like, I don't know why he was gonna be around here just doing homework. He just want to do homework. I'm like, dude, your father is saying, I wish my father would do homework with me. Are you kidding? And not for nothing, but my best friend grew up pretty well. He's doing well for himself, and I have no hate for him. I have no hate, no envy, no jealousy. I'm very, very happy for him. I'm very, very happy for him, and he deserves it, you know. But he was able to grow up that way because, you know, he at least had that structure. He had that. He knew every other day his pops would come and see him, and that does make a difference in your child's life. It does. It does. It really does. And when your child is this those first years are so very impressionable. This is what can mold and shape the rest of your child's life, you know. And this is partly why I'm so adamant against the whole transgender the transgender thing for kids is like there's a that whole world is adult in nature. There's no reason to introduce your children to that. Because I was introduced to that shit at a young age, it messed me up a little bit. I'm not a horrible person. I'm not working. I don't have anything that I would be sent to jail for. I haven't done anything, but it does still mess with your psyche, and there's things that you should be focusing on in school that are not that. You know, you shouldn't be focusing on sex. You shouldn't be focusing on things that you want to do with your buddy or whatever. That a little coloring book or whatever is just showing you in eighth grade. It's not appropriate. It's not appropriate. These things should not be in your child's mind. So, with the transgender thing, with the is my child gay or lesbian, these things are not important. You should be focusing on your child. Is your child into sports? Is your child into art? Do they like computers? Monitor the things that they're doing on the computers. Monitor the games that they're playing. The people that they're on chats with. If they're playing Fortnite or if they're playing GTA, you should be in the same room as them, watching them play, listening to what they're saying. They should not be able to play any of them video games, any of them online games without you in the room. You gotta be there, man. Be fathers, be around your kids, man. Be around your kids. Don't be around them to be abusive. Don't be around them with resentment and hate. Be your child's hero, man. Be your child's hero. There's gonna come a time if you're not where that child was looking at you as a hero all his life. And one day the veil comes down and he sees you for nothing but nothing. Nothing. You weren't the hero when he needed you to be. You know what I mean? It's the morbid reality of it. Life is precious. Young life is very precious. The same thing, and again with the transgender shit. Same thing with the whole let's turn our child when they're prepubescent. This way they don't have to go through puberty. Puberty cannot is it's not an on or off switch. You can't if you miss 9 to 16, 17 years, those between those 2 years, from 9 to 16 years old, you're destroying a huge part of your child's development into a person. A huge part, and that can't be undone. Human growth hormones, you think that's gonna balance out what was supposed to be natural, what was supposed to be just your child's natural development? It's not gonna do it, and all just because of aesthetics, because you want your son to be hippie and leggy and look more curvy and feminine when he's that's not right. It's not right. You're introducing your children to something that they shouldn't be introduced to. This was a very long video. I didn't mean for it to be. I'm just meant to get a couple things off, and I think I did that. Yeah, I gave my apologies. I really have not much more to say. That's it. Y'all be well. Enjoy.